School is out for the summer, but the future of American public education continues to be a hot topic for both investors and grassroots education activists alike. The increased nationwide emphasis on testing, accountability, and privatization has for-profit companies excited over the $500 billion a year the country spends on public education. In New York on July 26, the consulting firm Parthenon Group hosted a gathering titled Private Equity Investing in For-Profit Education Companies, Balancing Opportunity and Risk in North American K-12 Publishing. Reuters reported from the event, quote, "Investors are signaling optimism that a golden moment has arrived. They're pouring private equity and venture capital into scores of companies that aim to profit by taking over broad swaths of public education." A week later, the nation's capital hosted a gathering with a different vision, as dozens of longtime teachers, education activists, and labor leaders gathered for the People's Education Convention.
I've spent my entire life as an educator and an advocate criticizing the flawed policies of public education. Today I spend a lot of energy defending public education as simply a crucial democratic institution that needs to be improved rather than dismantled.
Taking part was veteran New Jersey public school teacher and activist Stan Karp.
Now, if you support increased school funding, collective bargaining, and control of education policy by educators, you're accused of being a defender of the status quo. And if you support merit pay, tenure reform, less school funding, and privatization, you are, labeled a reformer.
Organized by the Save Our Schools movement, or SOS, this year's conference was focused on how best to organize against corporate control and for policies that advance equitable school funding, an end to high-stakes tests, locally controlled curriculum, and community control of education policy. SOS board member Jesse Turner says among the leading concerns of the conference is excessive student testing.
We've got a movement in this nation to reduce children to test scores, to data, to profits. And we've got a whole body of research that says when you focus on high-stakes assessment and you make that the focus of learning and you heavily emphasize it, what you have is increased identification of children, you have behavioral issues, you have higher dropout rates.
Many educators who participated in the conference, including Rhode Island public school teacher Crystal Swapson, expressed concern Obama administration policies have resulted in increased testing, which she says will be harmful to her students.
Where we really haven't been teaching to the test, but right now my school is going to be going into transformation because we were listed as a persistently low achieving school. I believe now we're going to start pushing with the testing and the test prep. A little bit of that was going on, but not heavy-handed. Now I think the hammer's going to come down. It's going to be much more. We're going to be teaching to the test. The kids are going to be staying later. The homework. Everything that we're going to be doing is going to be trying to teach to that test because it's the test scores that are going to make it so that we prove to our district that our kids are actually showing improvement.
Others, like Seresta Smith, a Miami, Florida public school teacher and member of the Save Our Schools Steering Committee, has reason to be more optimistic. A dozen Florida school boards passed a resolution against high-stakes tests earlier this year, and the state's education commissioner recently resigned in the wake of increased protests against the state's education policies.
People have lost faith in the tests because of that. They're starting to see the sham that's behind high-stakes testing. People are seeing this, so they're more willing now, as elected school board officials throughout various different districts, administrators of particular schools and particular school districts. Everybody's acknowledging that the high-stakes testing has just turned into a big sham. So they're willing to sign on, but signing on is one thing, taking direct action is another. While I'm glad to see that people are acknowledging that high-stakes testing is a poor way to evaluate students, teachers, and schools, they need to begin to take collective direct action to make sure that they get rid of it. And I don't see people actually doing that.
Many, like Smith, are also concerned that linking student test score to teacher evaluation and the use of Teach for America graduates who come from elite universities and only have a few weeks of training before being placed in a classroom setting are resulting in shrinking numbers of educators of color.
I can attest to that. In Miami-Dade County Public Schools, you've had a lot of veteran educators that work in the predominantly black schools replaced with TFA, 6-week train. And I'm not even going to call them educators, people. They don't really know what they're doing in most cases. Dade County has managed to manipulate numbers to make it appear that they've been successful with these TFAs. You hear them brag in their school board meetings about we've had all these young, vibrant people come in to teach in our most challenging schools, and they've created all this success because our school grades have improved. But most people know that's a sham as well because, again, Florida has a terrible history of moving the bar of achievement wherever they want it to be.
For many concerned activists like Crystal Swapson, fights over issues such as the expansion of privately run but publicly funded charter schools have been a losing cause.
We recently were trying to fight them bringing in a charter school into the city of Providence that would service kids in Cranston, Providence, North Providence, and Warwick. And I went to a number of school board meetings and Board of Regents meetings, and for a good almost 8 months we were trying to fight them bringing in the charter school, and it turned out that we did not win that battle. They ended up voting to bring in the charter school.
But the conference also provided opportunities for activists to share stories of success. In New York, the teachers union recently blocked Mayor Bloomberg from turning around 24 schools, meaning the staff would be fired and the school reopened with a new name in the fall. Leo Casey is a vice president of the New York City Teachers Union.
A couple of lessons I think that we can take from New York City. One is that it's possible to actually defeat the forces of education deform when they take on public education. We've now pushed back Bloomberg on 3 very pivotal issues in a row. First, on his attempts to do away with seniority layoffs, which is really an attempt to make teachers into at-will employees with no due process. Then we were able to push back on his closing schools. We just won a very important court case. And in the new teacher evaluation system, where he didn't want to allow teachers to have any meaningful appeals of poor ratings, we were able to defeat him on that.
Colorado-based education advocate Angela Engel echoed many participants when she said the privatization of education has proved to be a failure.
You know, we've been administering these high-stakes testing the tune of billions and billions of dollars. I mean, we've invested heavily in tests as a solution. And corporations, particularly the big test producers like McGraw-Hill and Pearson, have seen their profits around education skyrocket. And yet the returns for education in our schools have been negative. And school districts are having to cut their budgets, they're having to lay off teachers, and the fact that we've been investing in high-stakes testing and we have none of the returns that were promised with those. We were promised that the achievement gap would be reduced, that we would have greater accountability, that more students would be graduating from high school and going on to college. That hasn't been the case. So we've invested billions of dollars. We have no return on those investments. And in the meantime, these corporations are reporting record profits on the public dole. It's really at the expense of our own children.
Save Our School organizers and participants are continuing to finalize a platform that details their position on areas such as civil rights, testing, and early childhood education. Many at the conference faulted both Democrats and Republicans for backing privatization. Organizers have scrapped plans to present the platforms at the upcoming Democratic and Republican National Convention. Instead, they say they will focus on continued grassroots organizing to maintain pressure on the next Congress and the winner of the upcoming presidential election. Reporting for The Real News, this is Jessel Noor in Washington, D.C.